Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fantasy Reality. And let's talk about holidays and whether or not they could be applied to your fantasy or your science fiction series. Yesterday in the United States was Thanksgiving. And in case you don't know what Thanksgiving is, it's basically a day when family and friends get together, either at grandma's house or at some restaurant, or perhaps they go to some sort of a community hall with everybody else in the neighborhood. And usually it is a day where people, quite literally eat, We, eat turkey, eat ham, eat a lot of food. Sometimes too much. Yeah. Turkey, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn, beans, cheesy potatoes. Alan, I hope you're watching. I mentioned cheesy potatoes. Pies, cookies, all sorts of things. And generally, we like to swap stories about what's occurred since the last time we talked to one another. Sometimes it's been months, perhaps even years since we talked to one another. Because perhaps we have a job that has us in, say, a different state or even a different country for months at a stretch, and it's like, when is cousin so-and-so coming home? Well, he won't be home until such and such date. So it's like, oh, too bad, I wanted to see him. I mean, granted, today with our levels of technology, we can just call each other up and say, hey! And I suppose, and in the science fiction world, which happens to have those communicators, we could go, hey! Or suppose, or in a magic realm, we got those enchanted mirrors where we could call up Cousin Yorick. How you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine. How are things over there? Doing just great. Kind of wish you were here. Oh, same. But at least we can at least spend the time together through the mirror. Yeah, good thing. We bought it. Now let's talk a little bit about holidays. I'll talk about Thanksgiving and how. Okay. Well, anyways, like I said, you could apply, magic and or technology as a way for distant family members to communicate. But let's talk about holidays. Holidays comes from holy days. That's kind of a given obvious. So, how do they come about? That all depends, really. There's quite a lot of holidays, and usually tail end of for people in this world, we have a lot of holidays between the end of October and about the middle of April. Stretches from Halloween on down through Easter, which encompasses things such as Thanksgiving, which we celebrated yesterday in the United States, Christmas, Hanukkah, Ramadan, Boxing Day, New Year's Day and Eve. You're going to run into Valentine's Day, possibly Ramadan. I'm not sure when that is. I don't practice that. But I know it's in there somewhere. Eventually going to have St. Patrick's Day. And then we're going to run into Easter. Now that's at least 10 holidays. 9, 10 holidays. I was able to come up with quite a few. And I'm certain that there's at least half a dozen I missed. Because either A, I'm ignorant of said holiday, I'll be honest, I am ignorant on such things, or I don't practice, or I don't practice said religion, those holidays. I don't observe those holidays. But I do know that between the end of October and the middle of April, there is at least a dozen, if not more, holidays. So, how do these holidays come about? Well, one could actually say that Christmas was based off of a pagan holiday, event, occasion, and I'll be honest, I can't quite recall the name of it, but it actually served a bit of a practical purpose, and that is, throughout the year, people would raise livestock, because that's what most people did. And towards the beginning of winter, people would slaughter the excess livestock, or at least a certain number of livestock, that in order to, one, stretch the livestock food out, and also provide some meat for the table. And this might be, say, a couple of pigs, maybe a couple of sheep or goat, maybe a cow or bull if you were lucky, or some other form of livestock. And we would basically salt and flavor the meat and hope so that it would at least last through the winter. And of course, at the beginning of winter, one thing that was popular was, if you had quite a bit, was, let's invite the neighbors on over, and we can all enjoy some of this excess that we do have, so that way that excess does not spoil towards the end of winter, because there was no refrigeration back in those days. So, you'd invite some of your neighbors over, say, hey, would you like to say? And let's face it, no one is going to turn down food. No one. I mean, let's face it. If someone says, hey, we slaughtered a cow, would you like to come on over and have some beef with us? Well, are you going to turn down free food? Somebody's, hey, you're not going to turn it down. You go. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to have a good time. You won't need to worry about having to clean up the dishes. I made to look at it. And, now, it could be that this practice of slaughtering the livestock and getting it all ready for winter and then having some excess and inviting the neighbors on over to consume it could start the basis of some sort of holiday. Especially if, say, the priests of the local religion got involved. And say that during the slaughtering that they're, say, sacrificing the blood to the gods, or the spirits, or the ancestors, or whomever. You got a little bit of a religious aspect in there. And, of course, meat, gets distributed. And it becomes one of those important days throughout the years. And if you want to have a political holiday, let's see here. Well, we have President's Day. And some people don't call that a true holiday because of the fact that it's political. But it's that you could call that a holiday. You could say that the birthday of the king, or whomever the ruler is, hey, it's important enough, let's celebrate it! One thing you could do, you celebrate the life of the king. And of course, one thing that a lot of countries also have are their Independence Days. For the United States, this would be the 4th of July. But for say Mexico, they have the 5th of May. Cinco de Mayo. And a lot of other places, they will celebrate the end of a war. The day that it commemorates the end of a war, especially if they were the victors. Although even if you were the loser, sometimes, you celebrate the end of the fighting sometimes. And granted, in the United States we don't celebrate the end of the Vietnam War because of what occurred. And to be honest, I doubt over in Germany that they celebrate the end of World War II. Unless their relative was in the German resistance, the German underground, that was fighting the Nazis. But that's a different topic. Although with us, we like to celebrate the 4th of July as our Day of Independence. Although that has a bit of a ring of falsehood on that one, because, well, if you know anything about the whole signing of the Declaration of Independence, the signing was started on the 2nd, and it took them a couple of weeks to get it all signed. Because one thing, you had to get everybody to agree, yep, independence, yep. Let's sign. Ugh. But, like I said, end of World War I, a lot of people celebrate what's called Veterans Day. So, and granted, a lot of these holidays basically just amounts to certain stores being closed for that day, certain workplaces being closed for that day. A lot of us, we get the day off, we get holiday pay, as it is. Today is Friday, and normally I would be at work, but due to the fact that Thanksgiving was yesterday and today's part of the whole Thanksgiving thing, so I got the day off. And a lot of people in the United States probably have the day off. There's some people whose jobs are such that, no, if you don't have the day off, or alternatively, they actually volunteer to work on the holiday. Because, well, maybe they themselves don't practice the holiday, or alternatively, their kids are grown up, so they don't need to worry about taking that day off because school is closed. So, since they don't have any kids to worry about, it's like they tell those who do have kids that, hey, I'll work this day, you spend time with your kids. That sort of thing. Which does happen. I'll be honest, there are times my mother, like say during Christmas, she will work it. Or Thanksgiving, she will work Thanksgiving. And she'll tell the other people, it's like, hey, go spend time with your family. And she'll work that day. Granted, she gets holiday pay, plus, she gets double pay, but, And, of course, most places do that sort of thing, that if it's a holiday, you don't work, you get holiday pay. Or if you do work it, you get double pay. Makes sense. Let's see here, I've talked about possible religious thing, possible political. There's possible events. A lot of, like I said, there's a lot of reasons you could have a holiday in your fantasy or science fiction stories. Like I said, some sort of religious event, that's a good one. Some sort of political event, that's a good one. Perhaps even moment of silence days, where some sort of tragedy had occurred. In September, a lot of people in the United States we will actually pause, well, on September 11th. If you know your recent history within the last, well, most of us who are at least 30 years old, we know our history about that particular day. And basically, on September 11th, around 9:30 or so, you'll actually pause them. In order to think about what happened that day. And, and of course afterwards you go on with other lives. But, those sort of things, those moments of silence on those days, coming up is December 6th, or was it the 7th? Well, the attack on Pearl Harbor, and I bet your viewers, a veteran who was there, I'd wager that at a certain moment in time, you will actually stand still. At that moment in time, you will think about what happened. And you will think what happened that day. About how luck and all the lives are lost afterwards. But the lives lost that day and all the lives lost afterward. In fact, I'd wager that most World War II veterans in the United States, I'd wager that at that moment in time they actually pause and they think about how the world changed for them. How a lot of them, in the days and weeks afterwards, they signed up to enlist in the service, to go after, well, Japan in that case, and then of course Germany and all that sort of stuff. And of course these days it's not too dissimilar. We have, well, let's face it, after such a tragedy, you're going to have some sort of recruitment, some sort of enlistment, you're going to have, after some sort of disaster, you're going to have people who line up to, give blood, on those sorts of days. Because there's that sort of significance that says, this is the day you go. And, perhaps you don't enlist, maybe you got some sort of obligation that says you can't join the military. Like maybe you have a wife and kids at home. Granted, these days, that the wife's taking care of everything, you could enlist. But some people, they have certain obligations that prevent them from going into the military or some sort of medical condition. Sometimes they could figure out some sort of workaround, of course, but sometimes things just happen. But anyways, let's get back to holidays. Almost went on about the military. That's a topic for another video. But like I said, holiday, special day, important. You're celebrating some sort of important event, which might be based on historical events, or religious events, or political events, or almost anything. So, how do you incorporate that into your fantasy? Well, like I said, religion is one. Maybe the people in your fantasy series celebrate the change of the seasons, as it changes from winter to spring, spring to summer, summer to autumn, autumn to winter. They celebrate that sort of thing. As the season, as seasons change. Perhaps they celebrate some sort of event that had occurred, like maybe this was the day that the king was born. So, it's like you have a big feast to celebrate the king's birthday, and with everybody raising their glass, singing "Happy Birthday!" birthday, King such and such. You know? Or, like I said, some sort of religious thing. You know, this is a sacred day. No one is supposed to go into work. No one is to wage war. No one is to do this sort of stuff. Is to do the usual activities that you normally do. And instead you just stay at home, spend time with the family, if possible. Or maybe this was the day that, hey, we defeated that evil king over there. Let's celebrate! Yeah! One moment. So it's getting a little dry. But basically, you know, there's a lot of reasons you can have a holiday. And or maybe it's like part of some sort of event. I mean, for me, one of my, well, I wouldn't call it a holiday, but it's one of those yearly events. The Step Up for Autism Walk, for instance, that I tend to be a guest speaker at. Not quite a holiday yet, but you know, 10 years, you know, well, actually 11. Close enough to a holiday for me. But like I said, there's lots of reasons you could have a holiday in your story. Think of one and run with it. You know, I mean, maybe if effect for all you know, the celebration is just because we cut down this tree that took us a long time to cut down. Let's celebrate and have a big bonfire. Now, almost any reason could be the basis and the start of a holiday. Well, that's it for this episode of Fantasy Reality. See you next time.